as you see, there is a lot of human factor, like in this model that basically is it puts them in a position, like where a lot of things are not perfect, and for a few of those issues happening or being under control, or you have enough resources to deal with that, it's like fine. If you have like 4 or 5 or 6 of these things happening at the same time, you're like in a world of huge trouble, right? I mean, like, and to show you like how exactly a good idea of the initiative going on from positive to completely negative, and making a couple of examples on the basis of a more of a hypothetical one to actual one which exists around the AI now, and going into DUI. I think I can try to explain, like that a lot of those things somewhere been maybe even a good idea, or at least a practical idea. But down the lane, down the way, when the money dried out in general, it became as obnoxious as it is, and it produces as much irritation as it produces. And again, let's start looking at this. What are the bias issues that typically are going with the solutions, and what are the implementation issues that may break the camel back, right? And starting here, like very quickly, like we'll go in like with an issue of the productivity crisis, and what are the predecessors of these issues? Like, people don't go to office at this point, and a lot of executive people telling that this is one of the issues, like what productivity is all-time low. COVID still brought in a lot of fatigue to specifically to the group who people call young professionals, the most productive group in between 30 and 35. We're having a great actual issue about this. People don't really want to do this bullshit anymore. I mean, like, and everyone are tired in general. Retired people are unhappy at this point. Retirement is not where it used to be. Pensions are lower. People getting lonely. Social mobility works differently today. There's a huge problem in the first world countries about pensioners are staying alone. Like a lot of them divorced because social institutions are crumbling at this point. All of them traditional institutions are in shit. And people just sitting home, not communicating to other people, and that's an issue, right? Like, it needs to be addressed somehow as well. Kids have loans they cannot repay from college. Internship is bullshit. No one wants to hire millennials, that the last few generations. Last few generations don't really want to work. They're not incentivized enough. They're not paid enough. They're not trained enough. They don't like what they hear. They don't like the current mentality of the much more of older leadership, because like people refuse to retire again, and demographics of the working spaces are in shit at this point. Like, really, like, I think we all know that. I mean, like, and people in the world thinking about what you can do about it. So let's presume that through the algorithm that we have discussed, someone in EY having a dinner with someone from the BlackRock or Vanguard or whatever, like, and their friend who's about to become a senator, and they're talking all that, drinking a couple of glasses of Macallan, not more sensible people, really good, a very good steak just now. And one of them comes out with this, I mean, like, we had a couple of guys in an office, right? Like, and productivity is a bitch, we'll know about all of these issues. They have this idea, like, about the mixed staff collectives, right? Like, what about we implement a global strategic program aimed to kill a number of birds with the one stone, and that would be repairing pension reform, of addressing ageism at the working places, and forced mixed group staff, basically going and telling businesses that you need to for the better perspective, better vision, and the better mix of the energy at the working space, let's say you need to hire 30% of people being like right after college, 30% being young professional, 30% you need to go and employ people who are typically at the retirement age because of their experience, right? More social mobility lunch programs to get along generation better, youth can work from earlier age, and so we're structuring this in a way where we extend pension age, we bring it in the cases, in the public initiatives where we make sure that people go into the work right after the college. We're telling that universities are not school, right? Maybe universities get unhappy, but whatever. Or we trade them in a university to jump into the work more directly, and we build along those lines, and we have this quotation idea of 30-30-30 and 10%. You hire whoever you want, we should address this issue. Had this conversation, one of them called their media agent, saying that, look, we need to put this into something attractive for people, because currently it sounds a little bit wacky. It sounds like we're trying to impose too much control on that. Also, we would need you to build a safe image of something that would look like a number of good cases, because we don't want this wacky people on Twitter to start talking about us incentivizing the space for the pedophiles or whatever, and we want this to look good. So they call media people, and media people now come up with this number of videos, right? Propaganda material. Which is pensioners being lonely at home, looking into the window. Kids are someone else, fucked up a long time ago, and then they got a letter, being invited to work with these people and provide their experience, and then we have a flashback showing they've been building planes at the time of the World War II, and they can address issues, connected with the productivity, and then you have another character, and the screen splits in two, and that's a young professional who's I've been working in this place, and it gave me everything except purpose, something right? And this is purpose. You're working with this mixed collective, addressing modern issues together. And then there is a third window. There's this young guy right after university, and they're I've been looking everywhere, and now I have a chance to change the world working with these people. I have a chance to learn. And the older person is and I have a chance to teach. And the young guy in the middle, and I have a chance to lead this forward, right? Very good optics, looks amazing. People are yeah, this is something we can stand behind. That's great. Initially, who would say no? Moreover, it's been getting for a whole number of I don't know, the A/B tests and the focus groups, and they did it perfectly. And and to justify that as well, media people, they say that they went and they did a number of scientific research with the people from the academia, same people who are teaching people into employment, so getting friends. And they say that this will help to step away from the hedonistic approach in life for youth and give them reason. And basically, they have a number of bullshit drafts, and all of it's very well packaged. So at this point, it's all great, right? In the practical solution where it goes down after this media and the media presentation, the business should follow index on norms and standards in the staff by age. They need to put a step forward. They need to fund some of those vehicles that would be distributing those ideas. There would be training for consultants. Government people will provide their changing into the pension reform. People would be working with social services who would identify people who are extremely lonely and they need to have more work and occupation, whatever. And they would basically go in and with many of these programs tell that convince them that they have right to use this opportunity and make it almost mandatory, because again those people would be incentivized by the bonuses to putting these people into the working. Colleges would train or orient people to work as I told, to go rather to the university with some of the guarantees of the employment. there would be celebrity talks. But obviously, like there would be people saying that, look, I dropped off from college to start working, and that really made me a great service, and I'm so much wealthy and successful because work is what puts bread on the table. Education is not that important, all that shit, right? So. But again, at this point, it's still fine. Though we already have touched some of the things that can go wrong, because there is little to no control and accountability, to some of the elements of the system, and some people are just too incentivized by the free public and commercial money that will be participating in this program from the large businesses that are interested in solving the productivity part of the crisis. Bias issues that will appear here, and no one probably not address again because of this little red mark. We discussed this one of the first ones. There would be almost a complete disregard of level of physical state between different age groups for specific professions. There will be professions that would biologically require more younger staff in general. That would be more volatile to presume more working hours, even the paid ones, which would not very well work for older people. And that means a lot of disproportionate work, and companies would not be organized properly from the point of view of working spaces to support this idea, and they would not deal with this very quickly. That would be an issue. The problem of the unit thinking about the society in general is that for most of the sources of those global ideas, they operate population as the statistic numbers, and they really forget about the biology. Really, it's basically, we have 40 million people. Good. What's their age? What's their output? What they do? What's their spending, purchasing capabilities? Where do they live? What their interest? Whom they vote? Stuff like that, right? And it's very easy to forget about some of the basic things. And when you did forget and it backlashed, you will be disregarding this, like 100%. So it happens often, and this program doesn't take into account all of the changes and additional work that you need to organize. Related to the fact, that those three groups are operating at a very, very different biological clocks, and they require different ways and different pipelines to communicate with each other effectively. Experience versus energy discrepancy. Obviously, lack of training and methodologies for this model, would not be taken into account as well. There would be issues connected with implementation as well. Quotas goes against practical day-to-day needs in general, but those businesses and those programs that operate quota for another issue we have discussed. You cannot report efficiently if you don't have quotas. You need a different methodology for the reporting, and no one really wants to go for that because it narrows down the space for reinterpretation, and reinterpretation is a bread and butter of big complex bureaucratic models that we're discussing about. So that will not happen. Business can guarantee training and employment, such as the universities cannot guarantee training and employment. It's a large issue with the games development industry now. In something that people call, when people go for calling the skill crisis. The realistically an issue here is that no one can train a great game developer, and no one can really substitute talent with the training in an entertainment sector. People who tell they can do that in year or 2 years are basically lying. And we have too many juniors at this point. And since we are promising employment and not entrepreneurial opportunities, the model is broken because big companies need to hire more interns, and if they want to be a part of this program, they would need to hire more interns and more junior specialists, really killing the production process internally, because their senior specialists would need to additionally train junior people instead of working on the schedule of the game or movie development, right? So that would be an issue. Performance metrics are not adjusted for the new rules in this specific case, because people who, if you orient your model in a distribution of energy, actual output, and experience, it means that your 360 wouldn't work. Like your performance metrics wouldn't work. It means that older people will probably effectively work much less, maybe 2 hours a day, but they would know shit, and they would be basically hired experts, like in this specific context. Younger people would do more of footwork growing into the model, and the people in the middle, they would probably organize some of the processes and actual output of somewhere in between of those two. This goes so much against unit thinking and so much against conditioning into equalized units by the larger companies that it will probably work better ironically into the smaller collectives. Like when it starts to go over 1,000 people, that would be a huge issue from the HR and from any other compliance departments, that bugs most of the modern businesses at this point. And that will produce another issue with reporting. So that's not considered by the CDS at all, as well. And it would be overlooked, almost guarantee you as well. Staff personnel is not qualified for measurement of new groups of performance. Discuss that, and there's just too much space for abuse from the point of view of reporting, over here as well. Because all of these things overlook. So finalizing on this case, right? And this is what I'm trying to put out here. We have an idea, we have a context. Sounds all right. Then we start to talk about how it gets implemented, and we do understand that a lot of things are just initially biased, and a lot of things in implementation and integration would be almost 100% overlooked, and at a global scale, it would lead to massive issues. And what's gonna happen, when the massive issues will start produce for a lot of people from this part of the sector who already are communicating with these beneficial elements of the model, they will try to distract your attention from real issues. And moreover, and this is a point I don't really understand why people at all don't understand, they will distract those people and maybe those people and maybe those people. Will distract those people attention from real issues to keep on holiday going, and bullshit there with the reporting and with the lack of transparency in this model. What they will try to do from this part of the model, general population who would start to get genuinely irritated, by some of the things they're seeing, like fuck your pension reform. This is completely unjust. A lot of people were not all of the pensioners this lonely guy in the house. Some people from the colleges want to go to university to build an academic career. This opportunity get massively disadvantaged in the media. These people who are choosing this path massively disadvantaged, because they get frowned at. You have a lot of influence agents who basically telling that if you are building a collective with a bunch of people of the same age, you're an ageist and you hate younger people and older people, and that starts to go into a slippery slope, which is all way too familiar for us. But what will happen is that people in interpretation they will be telling on top that it's not enough time have spent, they're working the public opinion, everything is under control, those issues are not really issues, and attribute them to literally anything else but their own mistakes. And because system is not transparent at all, and because it's way too convoluted and complex, in again this middle sector with this enumerated issues, it will probably just double down on being annoying as it is before it collapses. Because this is how it typically works, in the systemic crisis situation. But it could have gone wrong, and we'll discuss how. Right? It couldn't go right. We'll discuss how, but because those things are unattended in a current context. This is just how it is. Automation upgrade, and this is a little bit more closer to the reality, right? And we start from pretty much the same issue of productivity is a big problem. Again, and here, we have both an issue and an opportunity. Actually, we experience skill crisis as well, automation, and I can guarantee you this would be explained specifically this way because this is how people prefer to think about things. They want to find positive framing for everything, even the shittiest of the solutions. It would basically go for, we need to introduce automation specifically into the middle segment as much as possible, because it will help us to vacant a lot of professional labor so we can scale horizontally to other businesses. So it would not be discussed as a lot of people getting laid off. It would be discussed as is that we are building new type of companies which are much more productive by the definition, and those people who would leave, they would go and open more companies and or contribute to opening like more enterprises, and they would be thankful for us in the end. And I heard some of those arguments before. But again, going on for people who don't go to offices, there's a lot of junior specialists at this point. Need to do something about that, because there's a lot of disbalance. Seriously, in the middle, senior staff, overall economy stop submit human frustration, general fatigue. We need to do something pretty much the same as the previous. But let's say our guys have a little bit of a different than us, and we have someone from a strategic bank, with his pal from a family fund, just right after the conference, meeting their friend from the tech in San Francisco, one of this good-looking rooftop boss, with some of the very nice exclusive cocktails like Golden Gate and whatever. And they talk about this issue, and he tells them about the artificial intelligence, or the benefits of it, and how it can be extremely instrumental to address the production in so many levels. And in a lot of cases, again, this conversation would be happening in a positive, very positive reframe fashion. It would be about AI will take burdens from all of us and will allow us all to live happy life doing creative stuff, and not really thinking about hard labor anymore in the future, stuff like that, right? Still making things much more productive. And proposal emerges at the table, and proposal goes for automation to optimize economy of growth, vacant stuff for new fresh businesses initiatives as discussed, raise production output in general, and provide better horizontal scale for successful businesses in the future. Making people more content people buy more. All of these programs, by the way, they really try to consider as well the fact of overall happiness of people who want to buy things, just the purchasing capability, but I think that what went wrong recently is even for the COVID time, there's been a lot of stimulus money, free money from the government. Now people just don't have money, and people who are in this business, they just refuse to take into consideration this fact. So a lot of things I'm registering and seeing at this point is basically a lot of people just going and saying that no, people still buy what we tell them. People still want to consume a lot. This is our platform, which is basic pillar, which is not how it is now. And I think that really breaks it, at this point. But again, they need to frame it. And I specifically, let's use not so positive but effective media case in this kind. And moreover, this is what's going on, right? So let's start seeing people that artificial intelligence extremely powerful, very smart, future, adapting it to your workflow is great. And if you're not, we'll start putting FOMO with you. We'll scare the shit out of you about the AI being so much of a game changer that will be supported by everyone, that you would want to start about thinking to embrace it publicly, because you want to take the winning side. You don't want to be at the loser side. You want to embrace it. You want to say that it will change the future for the better. You want to start using it because you don't want to lose your advantage in the future. It's pretty much the same. It's the same product positioning as prescriptions in a college. We're basically telling you that if you are not prescribing to the Ritalin or Adderall, someone else will, and they will take your scholarship. If you're not using AI, you're putting yourself into the disadvantage. You gotta pay for it, you gotta use it, otherwise you're out. And people are people will. it's a very efficient media, like approach to it. So hey, let's do that. A practical solution would be here, like is that we engage our distribution model of and all of our army of support and validation and putting things down to the ground to make sure it goes from every toasters, from the friend, social networks, the right messaging, like to make it like optional but really mandatory, because media are doing this in most of the cases, and people who support media prefer to polarize subjects because it's just more efficient than saying someone you can use it or not, like emotionally, or use different type of tactics. So in the first case, like we would be saying that you need to support idea of mixed working collectives, because otherwise you're supporting ageism and you're like a very bad person because you go about unemployment with young people and set people at the bench, right? So that's a moral blackmail, it's an ethical blackmail. Like here, we're just scaring you. We're like, just put this shit out, scare for your working place, and you will not tell your friends. You will maybe even publicly demise this fact until you're learning, but then you will tell you use it because fuck you guys. Like I know how it to be used because I don't want myself replaced. So that's like a straight scare shock tactics, like, and it works in this case. To make sure that starts to work in the right way with businesses, we again, for the better reporting, like we introduce index of norm and standards in automation, and you need to follow them because otherwise you're not efficient as well. Such as we scare individuals, we start scaring businesses, saying that look, we know all rich people, and all rich people agrees on the same thing, that we're in a recession. We need you to start automating your business because otherwise you will go out of it, because otherwise you employ too much people, you're not following the trends. You don't know how to use it, we need you to come up how to use it, you need you to declare intentions to lower down expenses to get the better profits. So this is what you got to do. And you need to do that through the, again, checklists and the way of reporting and standards for automation. Need to develop as a group and as a program integration methods and start creating powerful cases. You will be also financially assisted, if you're working for adoption of the program, and we'll prioritize AI investments as well to create the network and pressure effect, because if you use media FOMO tactics, you cannot do otherwise. You need to create pressure from one of the angles to validate your scare approach in general. And then we go to the issues, right? And this is something which I genuinely believe would happen, and I honestly think I should start investing into popcorn with the QR codes dedicated to specific subjects and programs, which will start to collapse soon. And it will work in a way where you buy the popcorn and you want to get entertained, you just use your phone to QR code, and you get yourself right into collapsing burning building scandal, and you just see it and you're super content and happy. I think it would make me billions, right? But anyway, or you, because I just told you the idea, you can go and do it yourself. Just make sure to tell that you heard this idea at this channel, subscribe, and maybe be a nice person and invite me at some positions, if you are doing this, I will tell you how to spin this idea even better. So bias issues, right? AI technically can barely replace anything at this point, because this is how big business thinks about it. Big business thinks about AI as a tool of interchangeability and interoperability in general. And this is one of those very old things, and old ideas about anything can be replaced by suitable same-size models, and now we're talking about implementing this logics into the working staff, and this idea is hot, right? It's super cool. It will lower down expenses, it will give you more production kudos, it will make your businesses much more profitable, huge hike to the economy. Could have happened if AI would be what it's positioned to. AI currently cannot do most of the things from the point of view of actual production value internally. For a lot of this, it's just a promise. though it's a good potential various utility provision tool, it needs to be used by human. And a good idea would be to train people to use it with the same amount of people on board, and just try to increase based not on cuts but on additional value produced. A very simple way to follow this, except no one wants to do that, opening themselves to a specific risk, right? And the specific risk is that you buy the promise in the pipe that every one person using AI tools or AI automatically will replace a number of functions. You hire these people, you fire these people, then you realize that it's not happening and you cannot hire them back. And in the long term, when you try to hire people back to replace them, you hire someone with lack of the expertise who's been trained on your paradigm and using AI tools. And they just cannot fill in these gaps of actual real expertise. So, and it's a big risk, very unpopular in discussion, because it's connected to two things you shouldn't touch in a conversation. Really, one of them is a holy sanctified power of the executive decisions. Another one, AI being all powerful, but it's a legit risk, right? So it can really happen. And then, it's tech is overhyped due to use of the basic human modalities magic. This is probably the reason why people are overlooking this, especially at the top levels. The fact is that AI, indeed, especially with the GPT-4o, it can talk to you and in text and in voice and in video, I presume now. The question is every human can. That's a very basic set of things you can get almost for free from the human being. And the big question that we need to ask yourself about the AI in general is, it can potentially replace human? Should it? Would it be more beneficial to replace actual human with the current cost of services and people output in comparisons with the AI? And if you really start to think about it deeply, you'll understand that in most of the cases, it would not. Really, from various perspectives. There are some things that people just do quicker and better, and always will, due to the tokens and number you need to reprompt to get to the proper result. Operators, working on some of the things that look simple, but they're not, will just spend more time than the average person would immediately answer them in a better way than you all. There's also a huge problem with management with artificial intelligence as well, because you cannot convince AI in anything. It's a fucking machine. You can convince people to do an extra effort, you can convince people to quickly change their mindset and to be very nimble about trying to pivot subjects super quickly. The truth about the AI is that you need to train it to the context, and retraining AI to various contexts to get the minimal result which is appropriate would take much more time than convincing alive people to change their perspective. The second one, I can go off in 20 scenarios, where humans would just be more pragmatically useful, to the things that people are trying to put on the AI in general at this point. And implementation issues, can be measured in person quantifiable values. This effects, right? Because currently can't. Scale of replacement provides place sabotage on departments against each other, and this is what we're seeing happening in a lot of big companies. When in a big company, if someone sees an existential threat against themselves and their department, maybe they get into the Game of Thrones immediately. And they will try to mitigate danger on some other department, which they consider to be more weak in the current circumstances. This is how corporate politics work. There is no other way. There is no let's have a sit down and just dismiss this problem. If problems appeared, if it's aimed at you, you need to misdirect it to somewhere else in your company, and you need to have those people suffer instead of you. This is just one-on-one. that will create a lot of issues to motivation. Motivation is not perfect at this point. I think that AI scares, like they're killing like a shitload of motivation at this point. And I think that this is a direct damage that people are disregarding. But again, you have a whole complex of people pushing this down for the media message, like for the potential gain of the program, to basically, like that's just and they're self-interested, like they are interested in that thing to work. So that's an issue. Providers are not ready for active implementation as well. Somehow something that no one really talks about. We have a couple of very big companies supported by San Francisco, like some of those companies are failing, by the way. We have issues around key players like OpenAI as well. We have regular issues about large technological companies, like that appear like very regularly, like it shows that the technology is very raw, currently, given a lot of leeway, but those issues are quite symptomatic. Makes a lot of people much less believers at this point. But the real issue is about these 250,000 startups that have been invested billions at this point, and none of them showing actual, real, visible value proposition results. So, that looks like something that can backfire in the face of as well quite quickly. Not saying at the same time that AI is not a good effort multiplier tool for this week. I think we should look at it, as a platform for a number of tools, which probably what OpenAI does as well. That allows you to build a lot of widgets. So my forecast, is that it would be a lot of widgets and plugins, related to artificial intelligence, and they would do small things very efficiently. But this big global element, which is instigated by the global program, by the way, is, I think it really put the stakes so high, that this pillar of stakes crumbling would be an ugly picture at the end of the day. But again, it starts with a good idea. It goes through the shitty method of implementation, quite effective. So, still very working one. And do not consider a number of things which can really just bury it down, with a lot of collateral. Now we're getting to our favorite subject again. So DIY, right? And let's talk about the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And let's look at the issue and the idea that actually moved this idea of this concept forward, starting from, I believe, very actively from 2015, and somewhat actively before that. But what you need to keep in mind as well, from what we discussed in the previous hour, there are companies that can benefit from the idea of the diversity, equity, and inclusion very, very much. Those companies have nothing to do with high expertise, volatile talent-based businesses, and I think that this is the biggest mistake that happened, on an attempt on implementing this to an entertainment product. I can understand why it happened. It's a good vehicle for the propaganda in general. I think that media people stood behind this idea and some of the successful examples from bigger companies, that provide very plain services, they convince people to move forward on it. Moreover, again, keep in mind that an idea of let's expand our audiences without any collaterals and losses, and this is exactly how it's sold. It's in general a very sellable pitch, sells well. Became very actual now because, look, here is an issue. Growth of business is slowing down, global product distribution as well. We have significant issue for lots of products staying niche, so people buy them in only specific markets and only specific groups of people are buying them. Not able to cross the line to global, goes for so many goods and products, because people are so different. That's an issue. If people are so different and not connected by the same set of values, it means that they will always prioritize different products, and that means that you need to spread your investments through number of different niche, while all of us would prefer in business to have just a number of products that would be used by everyone in general, and people who would buy them, they would operate the same level of thinking. It would be very simple for us to align to that. So for that, like we will come up with a number of tools of how to do that. Discrepancy in culture hampers business internationally as well. And talking of which, idea of to make common values into the same kettle and boil one staple recipe out of it is good. But if we're not successful on that, what we will do alternatively, or basically in parallel, is that we will tell businesses to start employ on equal course for representatives of different races and genders and cultures and subcultures and visions and whatever, to try to achieve a critical mass of this level of representation that will help us to position this product to all of these groups that will definitely go and buy that. And that's the idea, right? I mean, like, and that's basically a proposal that we will consolidate various cultures and subcultures on the same set of values, increase appeal between groups by mixing stuff for better representation. The same thing that we would do based on age, like in the first case, but now it would be just about how people look at the world and how they perceive it and what's their backgrounds like based on this criteria rather than age. We will incentivize surge of sales globally by horizontal scale in culture. And it means that we will work with this level of aggregacy, like we're representing like different race and gender, like being in the center of it, for culture, subcultures, and sexual preferences, like being like equally important, because it's also convenient. And this is one of the things that we will discuss, like into the third block, because you could achieve some of the results in the diversity, equity, and inclusion without irritating people at all. Like, but because of some of the mistakes done in media doing and operating the way they're operating this, like we see what we see, like, so there is a lot of just full plan effort, and again, using for polarizing subjects at this point, probably because social networks. But coming back to it, an equalized opportunity and preferable outcome of better scale, like for all the people to make this model attractive. And so, in this case, we probably have someone in Los Angeles, let's say, and we're having someone from an old business. I would say someone from Deloitte, sitting down with someone from the asset management as well. Like in this case. All right. I mean, like it's we're getting to the second hour. I mean, like, so my imagination like letting me down a little bit. Let it be the same people from the Blackpool. Let include into the dinner someone from the Accenture as the global provider of the services with a lot of successful proof record in multiple verticals and multiple territories, and someone who's to support their sentiment. Let's say someone from the MasterCard, because MasterCard provides an extremely interoperable, successful product that goes through many countries. Like, and they're familiar with the concept of spreading this whole thing, for adopting the services through the tools of diversifying their stuff for better sales and support, right? And we also have a couple of representatives of game development and movie companies, and this is Los Angeles, like let's say someone from Hollywood, like, and someone from, I don't know, Electronic Arts, whatever, like whatever you want to put in this position, because all of them are so important. And they have this conversation, like, and there are people with money, and there are people who pose the successful example, and there are people who want to be a part of this party, like, and these people are saying that, look, we actually are grown-up business now, like entertainment is, and we can achieve the same results with you guys if you will help us to diversify our business to the global scale based on your successful examples with your money, like, and we'll make sure that games and movies would be consumed the same as financial transactions happening every second, and the same as people go to hotels every year to spend some time for the leisure. At the end of the day, it's not that different than buying a movie or the video game. It's just people doing some stuff for their pleasure, right? Isn't it? And they come to an agreement. And they say that, look, yeah, but let's do what CIA did, back in the day, like intelligence services being operating, making sure that you have the most diverse staff of people who can find a key for a successful conversation to every demographics you can come up with, right? And they call their media people, and basically say that, look, build us a case. And media people are, of course, and they go for all individual cultures and subcultures should combine together around the flag of those universal values of equality, diversity, and inclusion. And since we have so much of a discrepancy in the percentage in between the culture and the mainstream culture and the subcultures, we need to provide the leverage for people at the lower end. And it will be a couple of years of meditation, but we need to equalize this model. And the problem here is that equalizing 96% versus 94% against about 7% LGBT representees, equalizing on the key markets, discrepancy in between the racial profiles. It's extremely hard, and you need to make your choices on how do you support with all guns blazing some specific groups who are underrepresented. And gender is just a very sketchy subject that you need to attack in ethical media from the point of view of support of underrepresented groups before, so females, right? And that's exactly what media does. They build this number of polarizing cases, and they start to support these people from the standpoint of deny oppression, embrace collaboration, empower people who's been underrepresented, use all of the common trends and all of the national guilds and existing egregious, colonization, shit like that, and let's build a strong platform to equalize, again, entry and opportunity and outcome, to make our clients happy, to provide them with the equal access of equally trained, massive pool of resources that will also lower down the cost of labor, because more replaceability, wider labor market, right? We're bringing in lots of demographics, which will expand on the audience, and we're not telling about lots of the core audience, because this period of adoption of minorities against majorities, we will also try to sell it to the people who come up with this idea as a short term, because 90 versus 10%, how much time it can get, we will make sure that this is quick. And then there's also this idea of just a more of a variety of the products that will have the better chance for some of the groups that never consumed it before. And this is what media comes up with. So the practical solution here, is, again, because we need the reporting and because money will be participating for the adoption part, they introduce index and reporting methodics, change employment policies. Same as in the first case, we were telling that you need to have specific quotas to equalize in and outs. We need to change education policies to prepare such future stuff and to make sure that people from this group are attractive and believe us that they have this chance. We will be funding and providing grants for education for academia to concentrate their efforts on this specific program, without consideration that people would start to get financially motivated to work on this specific program only, and their well-being would be connected to this as well. Build platforms and representation to bring new audiences for better diverse product and bring in more audience with it. So that's the practical solution we're suggesting, and we're building this complex model, which, as in other discussed cases, has bias issues and implementation issues. Now, bias issues related to this program is New groups and actors won't be equally trained due to education not being able to adjust properly to values and knowledge ratio. And where we talk about entertainment specifically, part of the issue also starts because of the merit-based hires are not just an issue with hires. If you are familiar with the how art schools function, if you're familiar how movie schools functioned back in the day, they actually take on students who can show something of merit when they get into the schools. But I mean, talk about the prestigious ones, right? You know, like there are auditions for children, you know, like, and you need to be talented, and you need to be able to identify this talent, and you cannot service amount that the global program would presume in such of a mix. So it means that you need to change in education. You know, like you need to move quickly again, because like these programs are expensive and the promises going against, you know, like very big budgets, right? So that would be one of the issues. Media one step away from polarizing issues in demographics, because when you start to move forward, you know, like with, for example, the issue, you know, like formed around race, it's much easier to build a natural shield of calling everyone a racist if they're against acceleration and reforms in all of the segments and platform ideology that is built around this program, than actually do practical things. Look, there is a very simple way. I'm not to be blabbering, you know, like it's a very simple way to work around this issue and some of the other programs that which we've been discussing, to make them less polarizing. Step away from the question of race to the question of nation. No one will give a bat after that. So instead of starting the conversation about white people that, black people that, I mean, like say that we have a program to increase the diversity and activate number of markets and provide them with the additional benefits for a lot of people. We build them in stages. We will start to provide incentives and benefits to in Africa, for Cameroon, Rwanda, and Nigeria. We're also looking at Brazil and Colombia in the Southern America. We're also looking into for Malaysia and for Taiwan, you know, like in Asian region, very diverse. Will be centralized as a central program with the collaboration of the universities in Sorbonne, Cambridge, and Columbia. First stage is defining the group of people who will build the curriculum, and between those people, a group of very diverse people from a bunch of countries arrive together and work together like it's a space fucking station on the orbit, you know, like everyone are super happy, and all of a sudden question of race becomes irrelevant because you have so much components in it and you have only positive agenda attached to it, and everyone just supports it, but very quietly. So you don't have a leverage and the tool to start bringing in the polarizing subject, right? You know, like because it's taken away by the consistency of the agenda aimed to practical result instead of blah 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 bullshitting, you know, like it gives media additional ammo. Also, we cannot blame anyone and anything, you know, like in this case, because like you went layer down to national representation, and national representation is something much more figured out than more painful questions, you know, like connected to the race, for example, right? You know, like, but again, practical, no one uses it, no one will, you know, like because they want to have you triggered and agitated, you know, like, and that's a very simple way to deal with that. Same thing with the sexuality, you know, like, and I just step away from the question of the sexuality to underrepresented subcultures in general, because like I think that we can truly qualify this, you know, like as something related to unique person outlook and view, and it goes this way anyway, you know, like it's become ridiculous because like now we have like actual serious issues related to homosexuality for one simple reason, because it was persecuted legally and culturally and traditionally, you know, like in a world for a long time, you know, like it's been persecuting people as the chemical castration in England being cancelled, you know, like in the previous century, right, you know, like, and now and it was quite tragic, you know, like, so, and because of that, subject is polarized. But if you will get down in specifically the diversity and inclusion, like to the level of we need to equally listen and represent people whose opinion is not the mainstream based on any factor. Like you will get a completely different picture if you suggest a practical solution, like for people who are at this thing for a very long time and who's been very much experienced, who will go in, like and say that, look, like those things that happen at the work environment are not really appropriate because like we went through this in 70s and 80s, because from the point of view, like of people with this level of sexuality or like sexual dysphoria, like that would not be really cool, like so we need to think about how make everyone comfortable. And then there would be other people who would be we actually represent this very weird, like group of people who consider that life in cities are very bad, like, and we think that living on a farm is the only way. We also hug trees and whatever, like, and that would be qualified as queer. So I don't know, like it's very hard to follow subculture motion at this point, like, and what things are connected with, but you can think about building a platform for representation of this people opinion as a part of the forum with the quorum rules, like where all of this is admitted to some form of charter, like, and depending from the weight of those decisions being done, they're all considered, but they're not really put into work into irritative manner. Plus you can have the process. You have the process. The process like helps you to, it's not random facts, like it really helps you to solve an issue. But currently, like it's against the interest because like these things are not working, and people who's been paid in media, people who's been paid in the middle parts of the graph, like in service, in adoption, in media coverage, in non-profit part, dependent from grants as well, like they're really against those things, like, and they would not really be super helpful to make it more reasonable. Because like when big strategic program starts to collapse, like you cannot make it reasonable. Now the issue that's been bugging this whole thing, like it's the new groups and actors won't be equally trained. We talked about that, like, and stop the polarization of different weight of the markets will anyway correct business priorities, even if it won't tell us. And that's again an issue related to the different type of products, because like when we talk about big companies with the large index of diversity, they all support very universal type of product. Like financial transaction is a very universal type of product. Where companies selling chocolate bars, like it's probably, we can say that it's quite universal. Someone who sells basic necessities, like who are not associated in any form with the cultural perception, like they're quite universal, and the process of sale and of market integration is basically done at a B2B part related to the sales part, right? I mean, like when it goes down to cultural perception, the situation is completely different, right? I mean, like, and people who are building specific products, and I will step away from games, like let's do something different here. I mean, like, let's say I'm selling fishing rods, and because everyone has to be put into the same mold, like into the global programs related to such things. And this is a big issue if people don't want to go down into the context. I would be told to include same ratio and level of people from Saudi Arabia and Africa and whatever to have their opinion about my fishing equipment. And the fact is, like that the consumption of my potential product in those regions would be much lower. And why the hell am I doing this? Like why would I sell skis for people in desert? I mean, like, and why would I follow? It's because like to make sure that these programs really work, you need to have experienced people who understand the nuances of those programs from top to bottom and from bottom to top to keep it reasonable. And because those programs are so vast, and because they're operating so many perspectives, and again, because of the middle segment is so much interested, like to often employing people who don't really want to get nuance. I mean, like if you're good at media and activism propaganda, you're bad at product. If you're good at product, you're probably bad at this field. I mean, like, and because of this absence of nuance, right? Like we have a lot of rotation for the cases that go awfully wrong. Like, and if we're talking about the games, right? I mean, like, and if we're talking about the movies as well, I mean, like there are different niches and segments which are not consumed which are, in my opinion, almost impossible to make them global by definition. Like, but it will get overlooked, and this is where we get to implementation issues. Again, it's very simple to abuse identity factor due to its newly formulated value. Like if you hire someone, and if you have someone external consultancy who start to make money based on identity hires, you're giving them the simplest job ever and a huge shield against this job, which allows them to hire low qualified labor or to be low qualified labor for the huge financial gain outside. Like, and you need to think about it for this perspective. It's like literally, if you want to have a hiring agency, like that works with the talent, and they need to go from numerous assessment to qualify a high-level individual, like for fitting this specific job in the context, you need to hire very expensive people. You need to be very diligent. You need to understand your market. You basically need to be, if you want to be really good at that, you need to hire people who used to be producers, like who have the producer level of knowledge on the product that you are like want to represent, or at least have a couple of them at the consultancy. You need to understand people who are putting up technical requirements for other people to be hired to solve issues related to very specific things, like backend operation, like like class replication in Unreal Engine for backend, for lack of performance 6 months before the project would be released. We really need this guy, because otherwise we're in a lot of trouble. Like you need to understand this, right? Because otherwise you're in a world of bullshitting. Because people who bought a book on the Amazon of how to bullshit HR people, like they're infinite, and there are a lot of HR people who bought the book of how to bullshit the candidate, like on the same Amazon. And this is why we live in a world of shit, by the way, like globally, but like and professionally, but you get the idea, right? Like, and that's a big problem. Like identity hires are just too seductive from the point of view of making things to be extremely easygoing from the point of view of the athlete. The problem of the absence of deep expertise in the process of hiring someone for the specific job as well is that when you get this element relevant for the quota, for the reports, for the qualification to be a part of this program, financial or otherwise, you are compromising quality. You're building the wrong example internally into your company as well. And again, that could be working fine if the product would be different, if in general it can be good, like, and it can work. If you're operating with the universal product, established business, existing long-term, 100 years, 200 years, all the trainings are figured out, everything is figured out around what kind of people qualify for training, education system is much more suitable for this type of people. It's getting into the form of entertainment and arts and, like how people perceive things, or a number of cultural specific things, like which are not universal in the world, it immediately become problematic. Like just like you're trying to build the world of universal values at the same time, like you cannot apply it to the non-universal context. Coming back, but businesses won't be able to properly deploy for people into the new framework and to build this new framework for this thing. And this is what we're currently seeing, by the way. Now, with a lot of guys and gals, like from these different demographics, who are very vocal with the internet as well, and who are like often given a lot of shit. And I think that in a lot of cases, this shit is justified, and in a lot of cases, it's not. For a very simple reason, you need to put yourself into their shoes. Like you someone told you, like that you have a higher chance for the employment because companies would need to take your unique outlook, not being the right person, which is so racist, by the way, but this is how quotas work. What cannot be non-racist, like in general. On the shows, multiple people from the big companies, from marketing and HR, would be approaching people of color, women, and they would tell something like, yeah, we would definitely, you're a great talker, I like your personality, I would definitely hire you also because you're like black or you're a woman. And that would be 100% because this is how current conjuncture work. And like, welcome aboard, like you're in because of those inherent qualities that you have. You are suggested to exploit, like your race or sexuality or gender to be hired, and not because you're a good specialist, but because of those things. And because some people internally trying to build their own career, like building a diverse stuff, they want to report for building this diverse department. And they like literally using you for it, which is like mind blowing. I mean, like, and you can imagine of the atmosphere, like into the company, that will put you in a position where people will give you shit, and your position is that either you give shit back and you're trying for your survival, which is exactly what we're not supposed to happen, given how this offer works, or you just go and you feel yourself bad because in the first place, you've been duped by this person who wants to use one of your current qualities, not your qualification, to work on their career, working out someone else consulting money. It's so abused. Yeah, I mean, like, and such hires like what in most business that can plan for long term. That's another thing which I want to bring up super quickly. It's for long-term planning. Like in entertainment business, is very different from other big companies which are established.